Welcome to the movie Speeching. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take good care. Gattaca is the name of the movie. In the close to future, eugenics rules society and the majority are flawlessly engineered in labs. Anybody is registered in a genetic database and individuals who had been made in labs are categorized as valids whilst the ones conceived are known as invalids because they're extra liable to genetic problems, from actual ailments to simply baldness. Genetic discrimination is technically unlawful, however employers nevertheless take urine assessments or even the saliva on the resume envelope, which ends up in genotype profiling. This guy's invalids are continually relegated to menial jobs. At his condominium, Vincent takes a long term to shave and scrub himself till his body is spotless, then he burns any hairs and dead pores and skin that may want to be fallen. Subsequent, he takes a urine bag from the refrigerator and connects it to his groin so he can bypass it off as his own. He also places a bit of blood in her, a faux fingertip, which he carefully attaches to his real finger. In a while, Vincent goes to work at the Gattaca Aerospace Organization. Every employee ought to prick their finger for an identification test to be allowed in, and Vincent lets the system take the blood from his faux fingertip. Then he sits at his table and works on a PC, jogging specific space flight plans. Occasionally, he cleans all DNA traces from his keyboard with a bit device. The venture director comes through and indicates his appreciation for Vincent's cleanliness. He additionally confirms he's been selected to enroll in the flight to Saturn's moon Titan in every week. After the man is long gone, Vincent secretly opens a jar and sprinkles a few skin, hair, and nails around his painting station. Then he puts a hair on the brush that he maintains in his desk drawer. Later, Vincent is placed through a substance. Take a look at the test he smoothed earlier than the challenge. The use of the hidden bag. He gives the urine sample, and when the doctor tests it at the device, the result says his name is Jerome and he's illegitimate. After work, Vincent is going to watch another aircraft leaving Earth, and his co-worker Irene comes by to congratulate him for buying the mission. She additionally factors out he's the simplest worker that watches every unmarried launch each day. A flashback then starts off Evolved, displaying Vincent's adolescence. His parents had a quickie at the seaside and his mother by chance got pregnant, so Vincent turned into Born Clearly, which was already rare back then. As quickly as the doctors grabbed him, they took a blood pattern and concluded he had an excessive threat to suffer from many conditions, so his existence expectancy changed into 30 years. Vincent's childhood changed into quite difficult due to the fact each little component like a runny nose or a touch scratch had been dealt with via his mother as a fatal danger. No school would take delivery of Vincent as a pupil due to the fact coverage wouldn't cowl any hassle he got in for his horrific genes. Finally, his parents decided to have a second infant, and this time they went to a genetic lab to do things via the book. Anton had no conditions in any respect and was happy to spend time with his brother. However, Vincent could inform his parents had a favorite. Each time their parents weren't looking, the brothers could play Chook inside the sea, which means they could compete to peer who should swim the farthest far away from shore earlier than getting scared and turning back. Anton constantly defeated Vincent on this competition, which brought to his inferiority complex. As Vincent endured to grow up, he had become interested by space and dreamed of turning into an astronaut. His parents warned him no person would rent him because of his genes, but he didn't listen and he went to a few interviews. To his dismay, no person hired him just like his parents had guessed. One afternoon, the brothers went for another swim and to Anton's surprise, this time Vincent defeated him. But Vincent had to go lower back and assist a worn-out Anton return to the shore. That was the last time they swam collectively due to the fact inside the night, Vincent left his circle of relatives home to pursue his dreams. Eventually, Vincent got an activity at Gattaca as a janitor. As he cleaned the places of work, he sometimes used the computer whilst no one was watching, and he could admire the each day launches. He additionally discovered approximately the blood prick that came about on the equal finger each day, and stole a bit sensor that fell from a device. Vincent never stopped dreaming, and the top janitor would mock him for it. In his condominium, Vincent might by no means stop exercising. That can take a toll on his frame. Desperate for progress, in the end he decided to touch a person in the black market who delivered him to the real Jerome, a former swimming celebrity with amazing IQ and perfect health besides for his legs. He was paralyzed after being hit using a car and have become wheelchair sure. The incident occurred overseas and wasn't recorded, so nobody knew Jerome have become an invalid. Vincent paid both guys to get Jerome's identity, and a protracted transformation procedure started. He were given touch lenses to update his glasses and get Jerome's eye color. He also cut his hair and styled it like Jerome's. Identity pics wouldn't be a problem due to the fact no one paid attention to the ones anymore. The whole lot became DNA based. The closing trouble changed into that Jerome became taller than Vincent. That means that Vincent needed to reluctantly undergo a painful procedure that broke his legs and extended them till the heights matched. Vincent moved into Jerome's condominium to additionally have his cope with, and all through the primary few days he had to rest to get over the technique. That means he became frequently in pain. In those days, Vincent discovered Jerome's signature and how to write with his other hand, while Jerome kept filling baggage with urine and blood. One day Jerome confirmed Vincent his silver medal to remind him he has plenty to live up to. Jerome additionally advised Vincent to call him through his middle name Eugene so that Vincent ought to get used to being referred to as Jerome. While the day for Vincent's interview eventually came, he took a urine bag and tested it at the device most effective to get in Blunder's message due to the fact the urine contained alcohol. Vincent commenced yelling at Jerome for the effects of his addiction, and after trying out a group of luggage, he found the closing one turned into easy and took it with him. At the workplace, the doctor ran to take a look at and the machine showed Vincent become Jerome, therefore a valid. They didn't ship him to a real interview, he just got right away hired for his IQ. From then on, Vincent needed to scrub his frame very well every day to dispose of unfastened skin, nails, and hair, which changed into all burned in an incinerator. All of the clothes had been kept in sealed luggage to avoid contamination. Even as running, Vincent could unfold Jerome's samples on his desk to keep up the phantasm and use the fake fingertip with Jerome's blood to skip the identification check at the door. No person ever suspected something. Again in the present, all and sundry in Gattaca is freaking out due to the fact the company administrator has been murdered with a keyboard. Jerome scratches his eye at the same time as staring at the grotesque scene and doesn't note that an eyelash falls off. The cops soon come to pick up each unmarried path of DNA from the scene of the crime, which includes the eyelash. The boss tells Irene to help the police in any manner they need. The project isn't cancelled and Vincent will nonetheless be going to space. When he stocks the information with Jerome, they decide to move out to celebrate. They drink plenty and even do a few tricks with smoke inside their glasses. At the office, Irene takes the hair from Vincent's drawer and takes it to a healthy making service where they run a few checks to conclude Vincent is pretty a capture. By the end of the night, Jerome is so drunk that Vincent has to assist him to mattress. All at once Jerome confesses he hadn't been under the influence of alcohol in the course of the automobile crash and it hadn't been a coincidence. He had simply been seeking to self-delete. The following morning, the police forensic department checks all the samples and discovers a mysterious illegitimate have been in Gattaca, so now he's the top suspect. Again to Vincent, he puts the little sensor he stole returned in his janitor days on Jerome's chest to report 20 minutes of his pulse as he whirls the wheels of his chair extra tough to simulate workout. Later at Gattaca, Vincent is put on a going for walks test and he replaces the workplace sensor with the one he brought from domestic. Meanwhile, the detectives inspect the invalid profile from the eyelash and discover it belongs to a janitor that disappeared a few years ago. They come to the office to ask some questions and Vincent overhears them whilst they communicate, which makes him apprehensive. To make topics worse, the 20-minute-long recording quickly ends and Vincent's real pulse seems, that's rather high. He without delay rushes to the locker room and collapses as he attempts to seize his breath. After work, Irene meets with Vincent and admits she studied his DNA sequence, which of past sincerely was Jerome's. She's very inspired through how perfect he's and feels inferior, admitting that she's a lab child but has a chance of coronary heart failure. This means she'll in no way be allowed to be part of a challenge. Whilst Vincent says he doesn't see anything incorrect with her, Irene hands him a lock of her hair and encourages him to check it to discover her genetic flaws. However, Vincent tosses it away and claims that the wind blew it. Some day later, Vincent is running at the laptop when abruptly all of the employees get the profile of the invalid from the eyelash due to the fact he's a desired man. Fortunately, no one acknowledges him. However, Vincent is still afraid. While he receives domestic, he tells Jerome that he's the high suspect and starts off Evolve throwing away all the blood and urine bags. Jerome right now stops him, reminding him they might in no way observe Vincent and notice an illegitimate. That night, Vincent decides to go out due to the fact it might be suspicious if he changed his ordinary. While Jerome sings out the window, he sees that Irene has come to select Vincent up. Moments later, Vincent and Irene are attending a piano live performance as their first date. After the concert, the pianist throws his glove into the target market, and Vincent realizes he has 12 fingers. Irene explains this type of complicated piece of tune could handiest be performed by using those hands. Meanwhile, the detectives are rounding up a group of invalids from the community to be able to discover the murderer, but glaringly none in their DNA fits the eyelash. They decide to investigate all of the buildings that surround Gattaca and they make it to Jerome's rental, so he gets a blood check too. The detective is surprised that wheelchair-bound guy may be running at Gattaca, so Jerome pretends to be offended and yells at him, pronouncing he simply were given hurt for the duration of education and accusing him of discrimination. Not trying problem, the detective leaves. At Gattaca, a few officers dispose of all of the trash baggage. On their way domestic, Irene and Vincent discover the street blocked by using the cops too due to the fact they're examining all and sundry in the area. Vincent straight away gets rid of his contacts and avoids a spit check by pronouncing he's been drinking. The cops take a blood sample rather and his faux fingertip hints them as constantly. After they pass the check, Irene publicizes she needs to show Vincent something and forestalls the automobile a few miles ahead. She fast crosses the road even as dodging incoming motors, but Vincent is hesitant due to the fact he can't see properly without his contacts. After plenty of doubts, he runs in and happily avoids getting hit. Then Irene takes him to watch the sunrise at the solar panel center, which reasons a beautiful impact of mild that Vincent sees alternatively blurry. On their manner out, Irene notices that Vincent's eyes look exclusive and he blames it on a trick of the light. Sometime later, the detectives find out that a cup from the office trash mustache has the identical DNA as the eyelash. They theorize the invalid may be working in hide and killed the administrator because he located out the reality. To make sure, they go to Gattaca and announce they're taking blood samples at once from the vein as opposed to fingertips. When it's Vincent's flip, he pretends the physician has harmed him with the needle and jumps out of the seat, fast converting his blood sample with Jerome's. The detectives run the assessments again and no fit is determined. That night time, Vincent and Irene pass on a second date. Their sweet dancing is interrupted with the aid of the police officers, who start choosing up all varieties of matters with DNA like napkins and cigarette ends. They need to test people too, so Vincent immediately escapes with Irene through the back door. A cop attempts to stop them, however Vincent immediately starts off-evolve beating him up until he's subconscious. As Irene gets scared and calls him insane, Vincent drags her away to get away through some dark alleys. While the opposite law enforcement officials find their associate at the ground, they start searching out the couple, who hides in an alley. One of the detectives yells to call Vincent and Irene asks who this is, however Vincent answers via kissing her. Moments later, the couple is at Irene's apartment having their first time collectively. In the morning, Vincent finds a hair on the pillow, so he rushes to the seashore and makes use of sand and rocks to rub the excess pores and skin from his frame. Whilst he goes returned, Irene asks him about his leg scars and Vincent says it became a vehicle twist of fate. Meanwhile, the detectives are evaluating Jerome's profile to Vincent's and determine extra trying out is in order. They move again to Gattaca and take the keys from Vincent's keyboard whilst asking approximately him, nevertheless the use of Jerome's call. Irene overhears this and right away warns Vincent, announcing he looks sick and he should go domestic. Vincent is aware she speak me in code and leaves the constructing whilst Irene tells the detective that Vincent went home due to the fact he changed into sick. This doesn't prevent the detective, who asks Irene to take him to Jerome's home. At the identical time, Vincent calls Jerome and tells him to be himself due to the fact the police are coming. Jerome has to drop the wheelchair and begin mountaineering the steps to the main floor by slowly dragging his legs. It takes him a while, however he makes it to the buzzer just in time to permit Irene and the detective in. Then he drags his frame to the chair and fixes his legs to look herbal. As soon as the duo is available in, Jerome performs his component and asks Irene for a kiss, which she offers to him to keep up with the lie. The detective takes a blood pattern and is frustrated to look that is indeed Jerome. Then he tries to head downstairs, wherein Vincent and the lab are hiding, but at that second he gets a name from his accomplice saying they've captured the murderer, so the detective leaves. Later on, Vincent comes out and Irene sees him next to Jerome as they name every other that call harm. She rushes out, however Vincent follows her and explains his situation, swearing he didn't kill every person. Irene remains cautious and leaves. On the police station, it's discovered that the director's spit was determined inside the sufferer's eye, confirming he's the killer. It turns out the administrator had threatened to cancel the Titan task, so the director killed him to acquire his dream. Someday later, Vincent returns to his table and reveals the detective there, who drops a large screen. He's Vincent's brother Anton. They hadn't recognized their faces at first because they hadn't visible every other because their youngster years, however Anton started to get the clues together throughout the investigation. Anton accuses Vincent of fraud and desires to arrest him, so an argument ensues. Vincent thinks Anton wants to peer him fail and reminds him of who received the closing race, causing Anton to task him once more. It's nighttime time by the time the brothers make it to the seaside. They speedy leap in the water and start swimming, going to date that they lose sight of the shore. Anton worries they're pushing their limits, but Vincent calls him a coward so they preserve going. However, Anton starts off evolved feeling the fatigue and factors it out again, so Vincent eventually famous how he does it. He by no means saves strength for the go back. Frustrated, Anton turns back simplest to start drowning, so Vincent is going return too and grabs him to then swim to the shore. A few hours later, Vincent visits Irene and gives a strand of his hair. However, Irene throws it away, saying the wind did it. They spend the night time collectively at her location as a goodbye, considering Vincent might be long past on his mission for a year. The subsequent morning, Vincent returns to his rental and unearths the lab covered in plastic. Jerome famous he's had prepared sufficient sample baggage to closing him lifetimes, implying he received be round while Vincent returns. Whilst Vincent asks him where he's going, he simplest says, "I'm journeying too." Jerome additionally fingers Vincent a card, telling him now not to open it till he's in space. Later on, Vincent is going to Gattaca to get prepared for his challenge. The medical doctor informs him that there may be been an exchange of policy, so a new urine sample is needed. Vincent hadn't predicted this and didn't carry Jerome's bag, so he starts peeing in a cup while lamenting the loss of his dream. But the doctor reveals he's usually recognized and never said something because he additionally has an invalid kid and thinks he merits better. The device offers the wrong profile, but the doctor changes it for Jerome's and lets Vincent skip besides. Earlier than he leaves, the physician informs him that he knew due to the fact Vincent usually grabbed his member with the incorrect hand. On the condo, Jerome grabs his silver medal and enters the incinerator, finishing things for himself on the same time Jerome receives at the spaceship and leaves the planet. Once Vincent is away sufficient, he opens Jerome's card and discovers a huge lock of his hair. Now Jerome has technically visited space as nicely. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, leave a comment about your favorite movie, and we will make it next. Thanks for watching.